How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the 25th episode of Critically Incorrect. I'm joined today by Charlie and Justin, if you both wanted to say hi.
Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Yeah, 25 episodes in, kind of crazy. Half a year, half of 100, or one-fourth of 100 episodes, so definitely making steady progress there. Yeah, decent amount of news this week, but of course I want to first ask for questions if you have any. I always forget to do this in the very beginning of the episode, but if you have any topics, any feedback, any questions of the sort, leave them in the comment section down below, or make our way to our Discord server. But with that being said, Justin and Charlie, what have you both been playing for the past week? I guess I'll start with Justin, since he hasn't been playing what Charlie and I have.
Sure. I feel like I've played a pretty good amount this week. I've just been, starting my summer break, so it's been good. A bit of Rocket League, a bit of GTA Online. What else? A bit of CS:GO, some Call of Duty, some Fall Guys. And I guess the big one that I've mainly been playing this week is Resident Evil 7. I don't know if did I say last week I started that, or did I start
I
that?
think you mentioned you starting it.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I don't know. So, anyways, I've basically been playing that this week. I finally finished it last night. And yeah, I definitely really enjoyed it. And I'm looking a lot more forward to Village, which is coming out tonight as of recording. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And I'm gonna be streaming it. Check out my live. Actually, no, you guys are gonna see this after the last year. Never mind. Forget I said that. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I'm excited for Village and I'll be playing that tonight. So yeah.
Nice, awesome. What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, I played quite a bit this week. Obviously, the main game that me and Brandon both play was Returnal. I'll save my thoughts when we fully talk about it, but I've played a decent chunk of that. And then other than that, it's mainly been more multiplayer stuff. The new season for Apex came out, so I've been playing a bit of that with some friends. The new 3v3 mode's really fun. It actually made us want to play like a competitive shooter again, so we all re-downloaded Valorant. So we're going to play a bit more of that tonight, just because we have not played Valorant in months. I think it would have been like 10 months or something since I last played that game. It's insane. So I'm excited to go back into that one. And then other than that, just some League of Legends and like Call of Duty, that sort of thing. I'm trying to think if I've played anything else on like PS5, but no, most of my time this week has been with Returnal. So
Yeah, same here. I'm 7 hours into Returnal. I'll save my thoughts as well, but I guess I'll just tell you now. I'm like really liking the game. We'll go more in depth later on. We'll have our own segment for that. Besides that, I played a bit of Fall Guys with Justin, like literally maybe about an hour or so this week with him. I've also played a bit of Wreckfest. That was the PS Plus game that came out last week. Well, actually, no, this week on Tuesday. I literally played like a match of that just to try out the DualSense and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And then besides that, I played 3 hours of Resident Evil 6 with Kim earlier today, playing through that. I think we're both going to be taking a break because we're going to be playing Village, but we started up that. That's been fun. And that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on here to the releases this week. Actually, a decent amount of stuff came out this week. Obviously, the big one that Justin hinted at earlier, Resident Evil Village, is coming out later tonight, the day we're recording this. And of course, if you're watching this on Saturday, it's already been out for probably about a day now. We're going to save our thoughts, obviously, because we don't have thoughts currently until next week's episode, where I'm sure all of us will talk about our either impressions or review, depending on if all three of us are able to beat the game. So looking forward to that. Hood Outlaws and Legends is a weird one because the game technically comes out next week, but as Charlie informed me, if you did buy like a special edition of the game, it comes out on Friday, which would be the day before this episode goes live. So yeah, that's the multiplayer game that they revealed, I believe, at last August State of Play. Destruction All Stars got its first season this week. This was kind of like a low-key news story, obviously, because most people are talking about Returnal, but that did a drop. I believe it added things like photo mode, a battle pass, and some other like new characters, or a new character. Apex Legends got a new season, which, as Charlie kind of hinted at earlier, it had added like a 3v3 mode, right? And then also added
yeah.
a new character and just more changes, as they always do every season, right? So that's season 9, and yeah. And then I guess if you want to talk about the PS Plus games as well, we got Wreckfest for the PS5, Stranded Deep, and Battlefield 5, which dropped about 2 days ago on Tuesday. So yeah, decent amount of releases this week. And yeah, we'll move on to gaming news. So Our first news story this week comes from COD. Didn't really expect this, but Activision confirmed that this year's installment is gonna be developed by Sledgehammer Games, which of course we're supposed to be doing. The last year's Call of Duty game, the 2021, there was this whole big debacle about I want to say like 2 years ago when Activision or Treyarch took over on that project. But nonetheless, Sledgehammer is coming out with their own this year. I believe at least it's been heavily rumored to be another World War II game. So I don't think that's been officially confirmed, but that's in the rumor report. It has been confirmed to include integration with Warzone, of course, as the last two installments had, and they're also hiring a lot. So as we kind of also heard, this is kind of like a separate news story, but we'll include it real quick here. I think Toys for Bob were confirmed to be moving over onto the Call of Duty franchise earlier this week, and that alongside the fact that Raven, of course, is now working on Warzone. There's more developers needed for the main installment. So essentially there's just, I believe the word they used was literally tripling their size, which is kind of crazy. So Activision's going all in on Call of Duty, it seems, even though it seems like they've been doing that for the last decade. They're going to continue to invest heavily into it, which makes sense. Obviously Warzone, I believe COD might even be like the most popular it's ever been before just because of Warzone. But yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts about this? Any of the news stories? I mean, I think we all knew Sledgehammer was developing it, but anything here surprise you?
I mean, the fact they're hiring so many people is crazy. Like they said, they plan to hire over 2,000 new employees by next year or throughout next year. And like you said, they're tripling the size of the dev teams for Call of Duty. I don't know whether that will be worthwhile. I mean, we'll see. But I think the mass consensus online is that if the new COD is World War II, which is the big rumor, a lot of people aren't planning to pick it up. I'm sure there will be,
Dude, that's every year. There's lots of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be millions of people that pick it up. There always is. But to be fair, typically when there is like people saying they're not that interested, that usually happens. It was the same thing with Black Ops 4. That game died off very quickly, especially on PC, and they had a big like PC release with that one. But I mean, with the fact that Battlefield's releasing this year, and I think a lot more people are excited about that than they are for COD, it'll be interesting to see how that affects like Warzone and things, because Warzone was never intended to be like this big thing that would happen for years and years, and it's kind of completely changed, as we've seen with like Raven now becoming a dedicated developer for it rather than just a support studio, which is a big change for them. But yeah, it's cool that they're continuing support. I think there'd been some rumors as well that the new COD might actually get delayed, but I always thought that was kind of dumb because they have not missed a holiday release in like 15 years, so there's no way they would like delay it. So, and they said here like it's on track and looking good, all that kind of stuff, because it was like a shareholder thing. So
yeah. What about you, Justin?
Yeah, I'm not like too surprised that they're, basically going all in on Call of Duty. Like the franchise just makes a shit ton of money, and especially with Warzone, as you mentioned, like the franchise might be more popular than it's ever been. Like I don't know, like all my casual friends that that play games, I literally always see them on Warzone. It's literally all they play. So, I definitely understand why they're getting more people to work on that. In terms of Sledgehammer working on this year's Call of Duty. I'm excited. I really enjoyed the World War II Call of Duty that came out in 2017, especially the campaign. So I'm just excited to see what they do with it this year.
Yeah, I think I'm actually kind of optimistic this year in terms of the shooters coming out, because it's been heavily rumored now that Battlefield 6 is going to be a return to form in terms of how Battlefield 3 and 4 were more in the modern day setting. So that personally interests me, as well as the fact that Sledgehammer is developing this year's Call of Duty. I really like their, games. At least their campaigns are generally pretty fun, and I still think Advanced Warfare might even be my favorite Call of Duty of like the last decade, or thereabouts. Like at least the last PS4 generation, right? So that has me optimistic. Obviously we don't really know. I thought last year's Call of Duty was going to be a complete shit show given everything we knew about development, right? But that still ended up being like a fully functional release to a lot of people's eyes. So. People could say it's going to be delayed. We don't really know until they reveal it. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Do you guys think that they'll wait till like August to reveal the game? Because I remember everyone was waiting for Black Ops Cold War to be revealed, and then I think it wasn't as late as August. They revealed.
Yeah, because they basically they didn't want to like steal Warzone's thunder, so they kept delaying the reveal, and then they revealed it within Warzone. I think that was what they originally said, but yesterday in this thing that they were talking about, they were basically saying that they'll have more details about the new COD soon. So I would imagine we get a summer reveal this time. They're not going to wait as long to reveal it.
That's a good
Probably
point.
just because obviously Warzone, like, everyone knows what it is, and people know that it will still be supported, so they don't have to worry about kind of stealing its thunder, I guess.
Especially if Battlefield 6 is coming out, there's no way you let your competition like reveal their game in May or
Yeah,
June and like you're silent for 3 months.
because
Yeah.
there's rumors that's getting revealed this week, so
Oh
we
shit.
haven't heard anything yet. But
Wait,
yeah,
like tomorrow or something? Because it's Thursday.
yeah, there were rumors that it was going to be this week because it's meant to be early May. So who knows? When you're watching this, maybe Battlefield has been revealed.
That'd be crazy. And if that has happened, we'll talk about it next week. Anyways, moving on to our next news story. This was actually one that dropped this morning. It was kind of low key. Essentially, Ubisoft kind of came out with a blog post, kind of laying out the Division franchise as a whole, kind of like with a roadmap. Essentially, the big major development here was the announcement of a new game. This is like a very vague, kind of informative release. It said Division Heartland, a free to play standalone game for, I believe, PC consoles. Coming out sometime
Wow,
between
that's a lot.
2021 and 2022. They also said here, I don't think they've said which kind of like genre it is. I think a lot of people are kind of saying it might be Battle Royale. So that was like the first major takeaway here. They also announced that Division is going to be making its way to mobile, which I have no idea how that's going to work. I imagine it's not going to be like nearly as the same scope as the console games. Yeah, it might just be a different take on the franchise. But any guys thoughts here? I know they had like some kind of beta sign up for, which I did for the Division Heartland, which you can do. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what it is. I'm a big fan of the Division. The first one I was kind of mixed on. I didn't think it was amazing, but I still enjoyed it. The second one I really enjoyed. And then me and Brandon picked up the expansion, but I don't think I
oh,
even
don't
ever
even talk about that. Wasting my
I
money on
don't
that
think I
shit.
even played it with Brandon. I've played it myself, but I didn't play it with Brandon. But I really enjoyed Division 2 overall. So yeah, I'm excited for more Division. I think one of its biggest downfalls is that it wasn't free, and so the player base dwindled pretty quickly, and so like the PvP and stuff is pretty non-existent. So having like a free-to-play Division game, I think, is a good next step. I think a battle royale also seems very likely. If it's not the main mode, I'm sure it'll at least be some kind of thing, like the survival mode they had in the first one, because that was a really cool mode, but they didn't put it in Division 2, so maybe that'll come back. But yeah, they said new details soon, so I'd imagine Ubisoft Forward in June. I think it is they announced it for, right? I think they've announced it.
They've announced it,
Ubisoft
yeah.
Forward.
It's
Yeah,
June
so I'd
11th
imagine
or
we
some
we
shit
get
like that.
news there, and they'll announce whenever that playtest is gonna happen. Like it says, it's releasing like between now
playtest.
and next year, so I imagine it's gonna be like beta towards the end of the year and a full release in March or something, because Division 1 and 2 both came out in March. So that seems kind of likely. But yeah, overall, I'm excited to see what it is. Like I said, I really enjoyed Division, so.
Yeah, same here. I really like the second one quite a bit. And yeah, any thoughts, Justin? Have you played Division ever before?
I mean, I haven't honestly, but I mean, I am interested in it just because like as Charlie said, it is free to play, so it might be fun to try out with friends, just because it's free, it'll be easy to convince people to basically get on and try it. So I don't know, it's still kind of vague, right? We don't know too much, so I'm interested to see like once we actually get some concrete news.
I found it weird
in
that they
terms of
announced
the
it here. Like,
yeah,
why
it
wouldn't you
was
just
really
wait
out
until
of,
like
out of
a
nowhere.
Yeah.
yeah?
And then in
I
terms
think
of
I
the
think
mobile
it's
thing,
it's interesting as well. Like if it is a battle royale, I imagine this is Ubisoft's second attempt to trying to like enter that market, because they did Hyperscape, which just didn't take off because it was a new IP. So I think if they're gonna do a battle royale, this is the best way to do it, because people already know what Division is. So like if you can get that fan base on board, and then also say, hey, it's free to play, so if you were interested in the shooting and that kind of thing, feel free to come and try it out. Because I think that was a problem with Hyperscape, is nobody knew what it was and it didn't really work. So
Yeah. What were you saying about the mobile game, Justin?
oh yeah, I was just gonna say I don't really care about the mobile thing because I don't play
Yeah.
games on mobile, so
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't think any of us do. Yeah.
I'd imagine it's not even being made by Ubisoft.
It's
Like
probably just
they're probably
outsourced.
just
Yeah.
publishing. It'll probably be like a Chinese company like Tencent or something.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Anyways, Resident Evil Village reviews dropped as of yesterday when we're recording this. You know, by the time you're watching this, probably won't really matter much because you guys will be playing it yourself if you're interested in it. But it's currently sitting at 84 on Metacritic, just 2 points slightly lower than Returnal. So look at that, Returnal ended up topping Resident Evil Village. The general consensus seems to be good, I'd say. I don't know, it's always weird, right? Like, to me, I look at 84 and I think that's great in my opinion, but then people, I feel like games are often really highly rated, so when it's like below a 90, it's like, oh, it must be bad or something. But yeah, it's reviewing pretty strongly. I think a lot of reviews have mentioned the fact that the game's like around 10 hours long, which seems to be right about, you know, traditional Resident Evil lengths, at least, you know, the ones dedicated to horror. Yeah, pretty interesting. I don't really have any thoughts on like the major like you know, in-depth reviews because I haven't really looked at them because I'm just waiting to play it myself. But pretty exciting that it's reviewing well.
I've seen a few.
Yeah, do you guys have anything you want to add about that you've seen?
I'm personally interested just to see like how scary it might be, just because I don't know, like most of the reviews I read or watched, like generally most of them said that you know, it takes more like the action approach, closer to the, you know, the older Resis like 4 and 5. And then less of the horror approach compared to 7.
I think I mentioned this like on your stream.
Yeah. And then I don't know, like I also read today though, like someone was asking this reviewer who played it if it was scarier than 7, and he said it's like scarier than 7. So I'm interested to see how it compares.
Jump scares and more just actual horror, because for me like 7 isn't scary, it's just got a lot of jump scares.
Exactly.
Like, and I think some of the people from Capcom said that a lot of the criticism from 7 that it was a pure like horror game and people didn't necessarily want that, so I think they've tried to cater more towards what people said about 7.
It's crazy. I feel like that's why everyone loved it.
Yeah, I suppose because it was like different, but I think when you're doing first person, like an action orientated gameplay makes a bit more sense anyway. But yeah, I think the reviews looked pretty cool. I saw most people are kind of saying that the gameplay is really good, but the story's kind of weak. But then that's always been the case for Resi for me anyway. Like it's not like the strongest storyline. It's a bit messy here and there. So I'm just excited to see where they go with it, and the gameplay seems fun. So. I'm looking forward to trying it out.
Yeah, I definitely think it's gonna be like a mix of 4 and 7. I don't think it's gonna be as bad as 5. 5 was like comedic, as I was saying to you, Justin.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way, based on what we've seen in Village so far, that's gonna be at all like 5.
You're not gonna be punching boulders.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, definitely exciting. Looking forward to all of us playing it and talking about it next week, which we'll hear our thoughts on. Anyways, funny advancement this week has been with a lot of like weird news stories breaking out based on the Epic Games versus Apple trial that's been going on. Obviously, this has been going on for quite a bit of time, but I believe there's been some major court hearings this week, and a lot of other publishers have been, or like I guess corporations have been forced to get involved and revealed like some, you know, internal documents. So the first one was essentially regarding Sony and Epic's conversations for crossplay. This was like a big thing that happened, I want to say, the summer of 2018 when Fortnite was like blowing up, and then they first announced, like I think for Switch they announced crossplay, but PlayStation was like the only platform that didn't have it. Like internal kind of documents link to show that Sony's policy on it was totally just like, why should we do this unless there's something in it for us? Like Epic was proposing that it was a win-win for everyone involved. I think they even specifically mentioned at one point, like, we're the biggest game on PlayStation, so like, this is going to happen one way or another. Just like depends on how you know, and what like format it takes. I think Epic offered a bunch of different things. I think they mentioned something like giving exclusivity like packs, which we've seen so far in Fortnite with like PlayStation Plus, and the fact that they might develop a, you know, exclusive VR game for their next, you know, headset. Nothing really concrete. The guy was just kind of like listing a bunch of options in the email. Said that they make Sony to look out like heroes, like, oh, the savior of crossplay. But yeah, nonetheless, they just kind of just said, you know, we don't see any financial reasons how this would help us. We'll forward it to our executives. But yeah, kind of showed up, you know, Sony's stance on crossplay. Another big thing that kind of happened alongside this was the announcement that Sony actually forces Epic to send them a compensation package if the game doesn't receive its fair share of pretty much current pretty much payment based on how much time that player has played on PlayStation. So let's say that someone has Fortnite on PS5 and Switch. If like they played, let's say 50-50 on both platforms, or like let's say 60-40 with 60 going on PlayStation, but more than 60% wasn't with PlayStation's platform, then PlayStation would be, you know, forcing Epic to send them compensation for that, which is the only platform that specifically does that. That was the big thing that kind of came out this week, because Nintendo and Xbox don't force that. So yeah, it kind of showed, you know, Sony's kind of arrogant side to the whole crossplay thing. Yeah, they just continue to, like, the only reason it's happening right now is because they were able to make a financial deal out of it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Do you guys have any thoughts on those two, you know, information?
Yeah, I think it was pretty interesting to see all this stuff come out. It made me wonder, like, is this the case for all games that have crossplay? Because obviously Fortnite was one of the first to do it, but there are many games that do crossplay now, whether it's Warzone or Apex or Rocket League. Like, they all support crossplay, and I wonder if it was the same deal that had to be made or not. Like, it might have just got to the point where they did it with Epic, and they were like, all these people want to do crossplay now, let's just
I know in the email they said something along the lines of like, so many publishers have you know, hit us up for crossplay, but none have so far made a good case for why we should adopt it.
Right.
So I wonder how that ended up looking out for the other ones, because we know Epic for sure has to pay the money. But like, even some crossplay games that don't have any like payment with it, I imagine those ones obviously you don't have to do anything. But yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, like, I imagine their stance has changed, because obviously all that stuff was written, what, 2-3 years ago at this point. So I imagine a lot of that has changed over time with more games having crossplay. But there are a lot of like smaller studios that do crossplay. Like Rocket League at the time would have been still an indie studio before Epic bought them this year or last year even. So like, how would that have worked? Would they have been willing to pay Sony however many millions in monthly amounts or whatever it is just to be able to support it? Yeah, it's super interesting, as well as how like the emails from Epic go. Like it's so like, please, we'll do so much, you'll look so good, just let us do it, it would be amazing.
No, like,
like, it's not even it's not the like most professional email you've ever seen. And that's, I think, with a lot of the documents they showed, like a lot of it was pretty much between like one-on-one, whether it was Tim Sweeney from Epic and then someone from Sony, you know.
I think the first one was like Geo, which is like the big guy known for the Vita, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think we even got some like Microsoft stuff that happened later on that showed that like Phil Spencer still is looking to get Game Pass on consoles, which his email was actually really well written and kind of like speaks exactly how he speaks on, you know, the crowd E3 time frame. Yeah, so interesting that a lot of kind of corporation details are coming out about this. Justin, do you have any thoughts on these?
I just thought it was interesting how like it shows, you know, like how powerful Sony is, and how they could just essentially be like, you know, if you don't compensate us, you know, like we really don't care if, you know, to enable this crossplay or whatever. Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. But other than that, not too many thoughts.
Yeah. Alongside this, Epic's, you know, internally, actually, Fortnite skins leaked as well with these documents. They were kind of just showing like the power of Fortnite, right, and the collaboration in terms of like the real world space. And essentially in these documents was, I believe, Samus from Nintendo. This was like specifically mentioned alongside Kratos and Master Chief, which is a hint that, you know, Samus could be an upcoming skin to represent Nintendo. Naruto, I think further leaks mentioned that this was actually supposed to come out recently as well. The Rock, which has been previously mentioned. The Bride from Kill Bill, as well as I believe there's even some other skins, like I know LeBron James and Lady Gaga, some like real world pop stars as well were also mentioned. So Fortnite doubling down on that. I think Lady Gaga in particular, there's a rumor that apparently she's doing like a Fortnite concert or something like that, which is interesting. So yeah, definitely a lot of information coming out of that about all this, and will be interesting. So yeah, we'll move on. Actually, we won't move on because more information came out about Fortnite in terms of Epic Games, you know, its funding. They mentioned how Epic Game Store on PC currently still has yet to make a single cent in profit. Obviously, this makes sense if you look at the way that they've been, you know, buying so many exclusivity deals, right? So of course they're not making profit yet. They're trying to invest into the future of that platform.
Did
But
you
they did
cut
talk
out
about
then?
what?
I don't know if Justin, did he cut out for you?
Yeah, I didn't hear squat what you said.
Yeah, there was a
Oh,
good like 10-20 seconds there where you cut out.
oh, okay,
If you
gotcha.
want
Well,
to
I was
go
just
back and talk about the Epic Store thing again.
yeah, okay, yeah. So essentially, what happened was they were talking about the finances between Epic Games, right? And they mentioned that Fortnite made $9 billion in 2018 and 2019, but Epic Games Store still has yet to make a single cent. Which I was saying doesn't make, doesn't come out across as a surprise for me, considering that they're buying exclusivity deals, right? That's been their whole philosophy, is that they're trying to invest in this platform for the future. So yeah, that doesn't really surprise me too much. Still a big reminder that Fortnite's a big powerhouse. Like $9 billion for fucking one game is crazy. Like if you do the math, you divide by like 365. These guys are making like so many millions per day. It's crazy, just based on this one game and off cosmetic JPEGs. It's fucking insane. So
And
yeah,
like
you guys.
through this, we found out like there's other games that we don't even know will ever come out that have already got like exclusive deals. So
Yeah.
like Dead Island 2 has already got like an Epic Store exclusivity deal, and I still don't know if that game even exists. So
Wasn't Stalker also mentioned? Or no, that was on the Microsoft side, but they
that
got
was
like
on,
I think
yeah,
a
the
3 month
Microsoft side,
exclusivity
yeah.
deal. So many like internal leaks have happened this week. It's hilarious. Just because, well, not even leaks, but like just revealed because of these
Because of all
court
the documents,
hearings.
yeah.
Yeah, so kind of shit show everywhere, but funny in that way. So yeah. Anyways, we'll move on to probably our biggest news story this week, and this is one I didn't see coming based on the advancements of the past few episodes here on the podcast. PlayStation announced that they're partnering with Discord of all things. So, as you might remember, Microsoft has been trying to acquire Discord. We informed you, I believe, a week or two ago in one of our episodes that Discord ended up turning them down because they wanted to stay independent, but they were still looking for, they were still keeping the door open in the future. Yeah, this week announced pretty much that PlayStation's kind of investing a small investment in Discord into their company, and in return, they're going to be partnering with Discord to implement it into PSN, which is kind of crazy. So, yeah, they announced that early 2022. I believe it's going to be for PS4 as well, but PS4 and PS5 are going to be getting Discord like fully, well, not fully, but implemented in some way onto the PlayStation devices, which is pretty exciting. So, I imagine at least we'll get voice chat and general chatting, right? There are obviously still going to be some limits, as I kind of raised some concerns with some people. Like, obviously, the not safe for work stuff is going to be something that PlayStation has a big stance on, just based on their policies, as well as naming. Like, you can nickname yourself to any name. So there's still going to be some like loop, like some kind of workarounds they're gonna have to do, but still very exciting nonetheless that Discord is going to be fully implemented. Just because I feel like whenever I play games, I'm either talking to someone on Discord or like the rare person that doesn't have Discord. I still have a few friends that just use Party Chat on PSN, so having that all linked to Discord is going to be pretty sick, and definitely an advancement I didn't see coming, especially considering the advancements of Microsoft for the past few weeks. So yeah, I know all of us are pretty excited about this, but did you guys want to go into specifics?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool that they're finally doing it. I hope this means we eventually get this on at least Xbox. I don't think it'll ever come to Switch because they still use that stupid online apps, and they don't even you can't even voice chat through the console. So like Discord coming to Switch seems very unlikely. But yeah, like Xbox, you can kind of talk to people on PC, but you have to use the Xbox app, and it kind of sucks. So having it on PlayStation where you'll at least in some way be able to communicate with people, I think is going to be really cool. I don't know how that'll work with like owning PS Plus and stuff. Like how to maybe you get like Discord Nitro included or something. That would be
That'd be
interesting.
sick. I don't have to pay for that anymore. That'd be
Um,
great.
but for me, when they announced it, it kind of clicked to me as well. Like obviously, PlayStation recently announced they were going to discontinue like the communities thing because that's not even on PS5. So to me, this is kind of like that's their replacement, and this has probably been in the works for a while. Especially if they're putting an investment in, because that stuff obviously takes time. So for me, this seems like communities is going to get replaced by some form of Discord integration where you will at least be able to view different servers. I would imagine there'll be a restriction on what kind of servers you can use. And I would guess that's why PlayStation aren't just partnering, but have also got an investment because it means they can kind of have a hand in how that stuff is all going to work. But nonetheless, it's really exciting. it's a shame it's still a while away. But they said we'll get updates as they're kind of ready to talk about it. So hopefully we start hearing stuff relatively soon about how far they plan to go with the integration. But yeah,
I'm just
it's pretty
thrilled
cool.
this exists. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin?
I'm excited for it too, obviously, just because, you know, like we've been using Discord for like years now. It's been a big part of like, you know, just our everyday communication. And the fact that it can now be, you know, a part of PlayStation.
We could record our podcast technically off PS5 if we wanted
Yeah,
to.
just
next year.
record while we could play a game at the same time, you know. So yeah, it's great. I'm just, yeah, like as Charlie said too, the only problem is like, you know, it's still quite a while away. It's like not until early next year, so like still like half a year away, but nonetheless, I'm excited. You know, I love Discord, and just it's so easy to communicate with people. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering how, like, if they'll do anything new and specific. I think I mentioned like game statuses that are currently on PC, obviously, that just detect it if running off your PC. I imagine we'll get that for PS5. So like, you know, on PC you could see if someone's playing, like, let's say God of War Ragnarok, right? It'll be cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, they already have that for Xbox, so I don't know why they don't have that for PlayStation already. Like, you can link your Xbox account to Discord, and it shows all that stuff. So it's kind of weird they
Oh, that's cool.
didn't already have that. But I think like ideas like having like share screen and stuff implemented
Yeah, that
into
stuff would be
Discord is
cool.
cool, because obviously you've got like live streaming and like sharing a screen is already on Discord. So implementing like the pinning videos and people playing games onto Discord and stuff, I think that would be really cool if they're able to do stuff like that. And we just enhance kind of the split screen stuff they're already trying to do. So
Could even see like certain games like promote their Discord on the game itself, and like
through like the
natively
game
just
bar
take
and
you.
stuff.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And like have factions have like a dedicated Discord or something like that. Yes, you know, automatically linked to.
Especially
so
if it's on PC.
I know. As well, that's another big thing. You know, it's possible, it could be hinting that PlayStation is going to be investing further in the PC space, possibly, since, you know, they're partnering with Discord. So yeah, I was surprised they took a stance on this, just considering the company that PlayStation is. Like, a lot of times it's like us first and foremost are going to make the decisions. Like, you know, definitely was a big surprise to me, and glad it exists though. Anyway, speaking of another big surprise, it looks like Sackboy Big Adventure is going to be getting some post-launch content. They announced this week out of the blue that they're essentially going to be using the game, like the little card system at the very bottom that, you know, obviously is a native big PS5 feature, to be promoting these upcoming post-launch drops. So starting this month and for every other month going forward until 2022, Sackboy Big Adventure is going to be receiving a speedrun trial. That essentially is a big contest between everyone that, you know, has the game, right, and essentially wants to go ahead and try their best. The top, like, there's different tiers that get different rewards. Like the top 50% have a certain reward. Everyone that just gives an attempt gets a certain reward. And then of course you get like the gold and like the platinum if you get below 15 and 10, 5%. It's a really cool, you know, system. I actually did try already and I already got like in the top 50%. Might go back and try to go in the top 15%, but it's pretty cool to see that PlayStation's supporting this in a way, like a national contest. Especially Sackboy. Sackboy is such a weird game. Like, you wouldn't think of that game first to get like post-launch content in this way, but I'd really like to see more games do this, where like there's like a whole, you know, national like supported contest by PlayStation to like go back to an old title that's already been out for a while and offer like rewards and incentives based on like a community challenge, right? So really cool to see, and especially since it's going to be getting one every other month for like the next half a year. Definitely like a really good move there. So any thoughts on this?
I was gonna say, it seems like a good way for Sony to kind of incentivize people to use the cards as well, because as far as I know, the only way to like access this stuff is using the card. You can't find it.
You can go in the game. You can go in the game.
Oh, okay.
It's on
the way they made it out in the video was like, press your PlayStation button and there'll be a card for it. So
it's a good example of something that you can only really use though. Like, it's a big shortcut.
I almost wonder if Sony kind of went to various different developers and was like, hey, do you think you could come up with a cool way to use the cards? And like, we'll post it on the blog and post videos about it, just so we have more examples for developers to see what they can do with this stuff. Because right now, like, there's not a ton being done with the cards. Like, they're there, but I don't really use them.
I don't use
like
them either.
Returnal. The cards are kind of pointless.
They give you like they give you like a useless percentage number of like a certain world you're on that you're not going to use.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
li-
this is a great way to show how you can jump into content, even like post launch. They can just add in cards whenever. So
Exactly. What were we gonna say,
I
Justin?
no, I was gonna say I literally haven't used the card since playing Sackboy, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think
They're
I literally forgot about them completely because
they're
like,
good shortcuts. I remember I used it for Astro's Platinum. Like I used it to jump
yeah,
around
they
different
were good
worlds.
for
Those are
like those
very
launch
fast.
games. They were good for those like launch games, but then after that, I don't think I've used them for anything else.
Yeah, it's just up to developers, right? And like with the way the trophies, like if a game doesn't use them, like they're automatically going to fill trophies. But I think we all kind of already expressed our feelings about the trophies being terrible in a horizontal view. Like the cards are nice, but as like trophy wise, you're not going to use them. So
and
yeah,
the
it's up
fact
to the
that
developer.
not every game still doesn't have percentages on trophies, and I don't get it.
Yeah,
Some games do, some games don't. I'm like, just please, just let
Show
me
us the
see how
data.
many things out of like 50 have I collected.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just needs better implementation. Obviously, like a game like Returnal, like there's no way you're gonna use the cards, right? Because there's this,
Yeah.
like I'm sure that you could think of some really cool uses, but you're not gonna use it as like a shortcut to get somewhere because that's not possible unless you're gonna go back to the ship or something. Like, yeah, it's interesting. It'll be cool to see how like Ratchet uses it and stuff in other games going forward, but definitely a creative way that PlayStation and Sackboy was able to use of it. So cool stuff over there. Anyways, a really cool advancement this week that came out was the fact that Sony actually trademarked Sunset Overdrive. So Sunset Overdrive, obviously for people that don't know, is Insomniac's, like I believe, one IP they did for Xbox. This was one of the first Xbox One exclusives that came out, I want to say in like 2014. I actually personally played like the first few hours of the game. I think it's really good. It is out on PC now, so it's not something like it's only linked to Xbox. You could fully buy it on Steam if you want to. Insomniac did own the IP, so when they did get acquired by Sony, now it's up for grabs for Sony if they wanted to release it on PS5. And that looks like it might happen now that they trademarked it. So this kind of coincides with the 4chan leak that appeared. 4chan leaks obviously generally shouldn't be taken as anything substantial, but this one has been going around kind of, Twitter just because it is very specific. There's a lot of different games here that seem like stuff like if you're going to create a fake leak, you wouldn't mention these things. So first of all, it mentions Dreams Plus being a thing, which is like such a very specific and weird kind of thing to make up if you were going to make something up. They even gave a date, July 29th. So, possibly that could be an announcement for like a PS5 upgrade of Dreams. Sunset Overdrive Refresh Edition for PS4 and PS5 this fall. This was the big one that was going around because obviously Insomniac has already dropped Miles Morales just last November. Obviously we're getting Ratchet and Clank just next month. The fact if they can get like a third game out within the, a time span of a year would be literally nuts. So that was a big rumor, as well as a sequel to Sunset Overdrive called Sunset Apocalypse coming out for PS5. So that would be insane. I'd actually be totally down for a Sunset Overdrive sequel for PS5. Yeah, just kind of crazy. So what are you guys' thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean
I
the
think it's
fact it
great.
got
Sorry,
it
you go
got, like,
first, my bad.
no worries, no worries. Yeah, the fact it got registered, I think is a good sign that there is something coming. Because normally when they do that, it's because they are preparing to actually start like marketing stuff, and they need to be able to legally post like logos and things. I think on the trademark, I think it mentions Insomniac and Xbox Game Studios. So I don't know how that'll work, like, because it's called Refreshed Edition, so I wonder if it would also re-release on Series X and stuff. Just because I know obviously Insomniac own the rights, but I wonder if Xbox still have like the publishing rights to the first game at least. Because I imagine, because they obviously own the IP, but because Xbox published it originally and then published it on PC, I don't really know how that would work. But being able to play that on PS5 would be really cool. I haven't, like, I played it when it came out around a friend's, and I've played a few hours on PC, but it's not great on keyboard and mouse, so I haven't played too much. But it's a great game, and like you can really see where Spider-Man was like heavily inspired by it. Like a lot of the gameplay was taken from Sunset. I'd love to see them do a sequel, honestly, and I think Insomniac would. They've spoken a lot about how much they liked Overdrive. So I think it'd be really cool to see a sequel to that game. As well as some of the other stuff in like the 4chan potential leak, like Dreams coming to PS5 would be cool. The fact that it's got a date makes me think that maybe this is a bit more likely. It does say that this is a state of play for this month, which was the thing where I'm like, I don't know, because we just got one.
And we
So I don't
literally
know
have
how
E3
likely
next
that
month.
is. And yeah, and what would you do one in May when you might have an event in June? It just seems kind of odd.
Unless this
And as
is their
well,
June event, but just at the very end of May or something. But that's still very
yeah,
weird.
it's a weird one because then you haven't got Horizon or anything. So, and I know some people were saying like they've never announced like a massive game like a Sunset sequel from one of their big studios at a State of Play, which is a good point. So I don't know how accurate it is. But then there's other third party things on there, like Sonic Colors has a date. There's a tie-in game for that new Sony movie, Mitchells and the Machines, that is mentioned on there that I don't think has been announced. So that seems like an odd one to put in there randomly. So a lot of that stuff makes me think that maybe this has got some validity to it. But I guess it's kind of just a wait and see. But I think a Sunset sequel could happen, and a port seems likely at this point. So.
That's a good point, though. State of Plays generally don't have many big things. I will say Dreams did get its release date at a State of Play, so seeing a Dreams Plus doesn't surprise me. I could totally see that happening. That'd be crazy if they had like a May State of Play that announced all this stuff, and then they still had like a June showcase or something like that for the bigger games. Like, goddamn. We're definitely due for some announcements just because the PS5 has like already released so many games, if you think about it. Like, Demon Souls, Miles, Sackboy, Astro, Returnal, Destruction All Stars. They haven't really announced too many to replace that. So, like, I think the only thing we have really after Ratchet is just what Horizon, Kenna, and God of War. So they're definitely due for some announcements here coming up. And I'm sure we'll see them in the next month or so. But yeah, definitely very exciting. And if Insomniac can, like, Insomniac's one of the best studios right now. Like, if they could have, like, literally Spider-Man, Ratchet, and Sunset Overdrive going as, like, three different, very different series, this is very cool. So, like, an area where we're, like, it seems like we get one release from every developer, like, once every 4 or 5 years. It's crazy how Insomniac can work so fast and get so much done at, a quality bar like that. So, hats off to that. And yeah, anyways, our final news story is actually one that broke earlier today and was one that was confusing a lot of people. And I think people are kind of slightly taking it the wrong way. So essentially, I believe Sony confirmed that there's going to be some PS5 redesign going into production in 2022. I think a Sony representative in like Korea kind of confirmed this, or at least talked about a bit about this. People see this and immediately they're thinking like PS5 Pro or something like that. That's not what this is. Essentially, what I believe, at least based on what I've heard about it and read so far, is that this is going to be a different model that's going to counteract the shortages that they're currently experiencing with the PS5 that they're manufacturing right now. So it won't necessarily mean anything for the consumer. Like, this could literally be marketed the same as the, a PS5, right? It could be internally only. So, it might not even see something like a big difference in terms of, when you're going to buy a PS5. But essentially, this going into production in 2022, I believe, is going to be aimed to stop the shortage problem, which is happening with one of their chips. So, definitely very interesting there. At the same time, I don't know why this would exist, because I imagine this chip shortage wouldn't last until 2022. I don't know everything, right, obviously, but I imagine that the chip shortage won't be here forever, so it'd be really weird to kind of have a solution for that for next year. But nonetheless, it's something that's happening. We have seen some other things like this happen on the PS4. I think even you, Charlie, you mentioned, or someone mentioned in Discord, the fact that the PS4 had the glossy kind of cover at the very top as a launch edition, right? And then like very quickly soon after that was removed in the manufacturing line. So it doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but there definitely is going to be some sort of change, most likely internally. And yeah, so do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think redesign seems like a poor word choicing from the articles I've seen. I think it was like a Korean manufacturing company that makes like some of the parts. It wasn't Sony themselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it seems like what they were saying is that it's a slightly different chip. And I would imagine I don't know if it's purely shortages. I would more guess it's down to like cost effectiveness and stuff, and they're just saying, hey, there's this slightly different chip we could use that gives us the same speeds, but it's going to cost a bit less, and we can get more out next year and that kind of thing. I would say that the most similar thing it's going to be to is between like 2014 and 15, after they'd already like switched up the PS4 with the complete map version, there was like an A and a B revision around the time when Battlefront came out. And it was literally, it had a slightly quieter fan, and used less power. So it was just, it didn't get as hot, but physically it looked the exact same. And the only way to tell the difference was the code. I would imagine this is very similar, where it's just going to be a better performing console, but you're at no disadvantage if you own a launch one. It's just a revision that they do to save a bit of money and, make a slightly better console.
So
It's,
what?
it's, yeah.
Yeah. So what I was going on about is apparently Sony had their earnings call like a few days ago, or maybe even like a few weeks ago. It was a Q4 2021 earnings call, and the CFO Hiroki Totoki suggested that stock shortages could be overcome with an electronic product redesign. So I guess that's where I pulled that from. But nonetheless, they spoke a bit about it. Anyway, go on.
But yeah, that was, basically it really. I mean, this kind of stuff happens a lot. It's nothing to freak out about. It's not like they're already planning to put a Slim into production next year. Like, obviously they'll be working on that stuff because they're always working on new consoles. But there's no way that's what this is. It'll just be a revision, or even similar to what the Switch did, where it had a slightly bigger battery. It's simple stuff that under the hood you're not going to know unless you're kind of really reading into model numbers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, any thoughts, Justin, before we end off the segment?
I don't know. Yeah, I just I've seen like a lot of people online that have basically been losing their shit, saying it's like, this is exactly why I decided to wait for, and not get a launch model or whatever.
So,
but like like as Charlie said, it's it's definitely not that. They're not going to be making like a Pro or Slim, at least for a while. And I don't know, like if this helps with what's it called, like cost efficiency, or helps with the shortages, then it's fine. It's not like I'm gonna be looking into the specific model of what chip or whatever, so I think it's fine. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, as we hinted at earlier, we're going to talk a bit about Returnal now. Obviously, Charlie and I, this has been our main game we've been playing for the last week or so, and a lot of us generally have strong opinions about it. So I guess, Charlie, I'll let you start based on your experience, if you want to talk about how long you've been playing, what you think so far, and all that.
Yeah, so as far as I know, me and Brandon are at a similar point, but I have played about double the amount of time. I checked my playtime this morning, and I'm at just over 16 hours in the game. So I'm at the 5th biome. I want to say there's 6 biomes from what I've seen online, so I'm kind of near the end, although it's very luck and difficulty based, as you'll probably see when Brandon talks about his experience. But for me, I'm really enjoying the game. I actually found the game in the first few hours really easy. I got through the first 2 worlds in my first run, well, the first proper run, and then got to the 3rd world, and I basically had to go to bed, and I didn't want to put it in rest mode because there's no like saving. So I was like, oh, it's okay, I'll just die, I'll get back to this point. And then it took me another like 10 hours to get back to that point. I was just getting super unlucky with like my runs and kind of the stats I was getting on things, and like I was just doing really badly. I streamed it for like, I want to say 4, maybe 5 hours on a couple different days, and like, yeah, I made no progress until last night, and I managed to get through a couple of biomes just because I got a really good run. But overall, I'm really enjoying it. It runs really smooth. The stuff they do with the controller is really cool. So like when you start a run, there's like rain pouring down, and you kind of like Astro, you can feel all the raindrops in the controller. I was kind of worried that would be persistent, but as soon as you leave that room, it stops, which is really good because you don't want loads of little vibrations going off all the time. They also kind of use that to help with the 3D audio. So like if you hear an enemy behind you, you do kind of get slight rumbles in like the bottom of the controller, just to help your brain basically go, oh, there's a guy behind me, I need to dodge, because it is really hard to keep track of all the enemies on screen at once. And the stuff with the triggers is probably my favorite, where like if you hold it down halfway on the left trigger, you kind of aim down sights, and then if you pull it all the way, you get like an alt fire mode. And they're all kind of like randomly generated with your guns when you pick them up with different stats and abilities and things. But yeah, overall, it's really cool. I'm enjoying it a lot. I do think saying it's a roguelite is a bit maybe wrong of them. I feel like it's a bit more roguelike than, say, something like Hades, because a lot of the time in that sort of past 10 hours I've played the game, I didn't really feel like I was like getting better at the game or like earning new things to make me have a better run, basically, because you don't really upgrade anything other than your guns kind of leveling up, and you get to a certain point where you can't level anything up anymore, as in Hades you are constantly upgrading things or unlocking new abilities, and that's not the case in Returnal. So I do think that that's maybe kind of a downfall of the game, and it'll be interesting to see what more casual audiences think of the game, maybe when more people pick up the console and the game and things. But for now, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to playing more. It seems pretty lengthy, so I imagine I'll be at least for another week probably playing it, maybe a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be doing the same. The only thing that I wonder is how Village will affect that. I'm still planning on playing
Yeah.
both of them, but yeah. Like you, I'm really liking the game a lot so far. Definitely the best DualSense implementation alongside Astro. For reasons like you said, holding down the trigger halfway and shooting normally was something I had to wrap my head around. Like the first 30 minutes or so, I kept using the alt fire mode. I was like, not on purpose either. I was just like my brain's just been triggered to hold down L2 all the way for like the last 10 years. Like, is such a weird thing, and it almost gave you like another button, but still on the L2 stick or trigger, which is really, really cool. I'm 7 hours in. Like Charlie, I've made it to the fifth biome once so far, and I haven't been able to get back there just yet. Yeah, like Charlie mentioned, my experience has been a lot different. I actually died to the first boss once, and then I think I died like very stupidly, like off a cliff in the first like room another time. So on my third run, I beat the first boss finally, and then I actually got quite far into the game. I was able to get all the way to the third boss, which is the one that Charlie was struggling on, or at least to get to that guy. And the only reason I'm actually beat him was because I had one of these special perks on it, which gave me like a 25% chance when using a consumable for it not to disappear out of my inventory. And essentially I rolled that 25% twice during that boss fight, so I got essentially like 3 heals out of 1 medkit, which helped dramatically in that fight. As I sent Charlie like the clip, like I literally was like so low on health. So literally I somehow beat him first try, by very much, not only luck, but I wouldn't have beat him without the luck, obviously. So yeah, in a way, like I've been seeing a conversation on Twitter about people complaining about the luck, some people just giving up on the game because it's, pissing them off, and I get that. I think the biggest thing for me right now is currently the lack of a save feature, like a quality of life feature like that. Just because, yeah, you could say get good, right? But not everyone has the same amount of hours in a day to just keep a game like that. Like even if you argue rest mode is a way to save, your save files, people have issues with save files, and 2, there's an even bigger problem there. You can't really multitask. You're kind of staying at Returnal, right? You can't go and play a different game because obviously, PlayStation 5 doesn't have quick resume like Xbox. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I want. They have already, said that they hear that concern, and hopefully that will be coming sometime in a soon patch. It's also worth noting that like a recent patch that came out this week apparently was corrupting people's save files. So hopefully none of you guys got affected by that, but that was something that was happening. But they were able to roll that out, with the new patch that came out today, luckily. But yeah, going on in terms of the luck discussion, I'm actually really enjoying the way that they do progression in this game for, a few different reasons. I do share the concern that, you're not physically upgrading your character, right? But in a way, I kind of find it more interesting that you're not, upgrading your character. Because, like, if you think about it, you could be watching someone on Twitch, right? And, like, they could literally beat the game on their first run if they wanted to. Like, nothing's really stopping them. It's not like you gotta play Hades for, like, 20 hours to get better guns or get better swords, right? And then able to face the boss with much better stats. Like, the stats you have in one run isn't going to be limited because you haven't played enough of the game. Like, they're going to give you the same kind of stuff. There are certain items that you can only unlock after, getting certain data cubes and stuff like that. But to a large extent, like, literally a lot of it is just up to luck and, your skill, right? So it's really fascinating that, like, any run could change in a second based on what you get and what happens to you. So I actually kind of like that aspect to it, but I definitely do see how people are annoyed by, the lack of, progression in that sense. But yeah, It is interesting. I'm definitely really enjoying the combat. That's probably the biggest surprise for me so far is like when I'm not playing Returnal, I'm thinking about playing it because the combat is just like super addicting to play and satisfying with the DualSense. Like I've been going back to other shooters in third person, right? And without it, it feels like I'm not playing a shooter. Like it almost feels like I'm playing a game without rumble. Like even though it has basic rumble, like once you go with haptics, you can't really go back to it. So go back to anything else. So yeah, I'm definitely really enjoying it. I'm actually really glad they didn't really show too much about this game because I've been having a blast just discovering new things in this world. Like I think even Charlie and I have been discovering like new things almost like on a lot of different runs based on how this world works and the little quirks within it. So yeah, I'm having a blast with it, and yeah, I can't wait to play more. So yeah.
I think my biggest surprise for me as well is like the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I went into it knowing that I'd probably like the gameplay a lot, but I wasn't expecting much from the story. But from where I am right now, like that's all I'm thinking about. Like when I want to play Returnal, it's because I want to see what's going to happen to Celine and like why is she in this loop. And at first I kind of was like, I was interested, but I wasn't super engaged. But from what kind of happens before you get to the fourth biome, and it kind of changes the whole game, really.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like, okay, I really need to see what's happening. Because I'm not only confused, but I'm also like, I want to know what's going on. Like, it's hard to talk about it without spoiling it. It's like
you're watching a movie and like you haven't gotten the conclusion of what's going on with this whole entire thing.
It's like Brandon will know what I'm talking about, but like when you beat the third boss, there is a section that happens in first person that just I was sat there and it kind of blew my mind because it was just so cool. And like I don't know who came up with the idea to do it, but it was super interesting. And I just hope that there's more of it because I'm kind of worried that I am near the end and there's not going to be too much story. Because for me that's the biggest surprise, especially for Housemarque. They've never really done that before. This is their first kind of really narrative driven game, and I think they've done such a good job with it. I really hope they do more of this kind of stuff. I especially, they did that Battle Royale game that never came out, so I kind of hope that that's not what they go back to now when they do more stuff like Returnal, because it's so good. I hope that Sony just fund them more and more, because it's so clear as well that this would not have been possible without PlayStation being there to fund it. Yeah. Like the budget on this game must have been insane, because like visually and it looks amazing, and like functionally it's really good and utilizes the console so well. But yeah, it's probably the biggest surprise for me, I think, this year. Yeah. Like playing it, like I thought I'd like it, but I'm really liking it.
Like I'm almost at a point where I like the $70. Like certainly for me at least, the $70 price I have in mind. Like I've gotten my fair share of enjoyment just based on the combat alone. It's hard to recommend it for $70, but like I certainly felt like it hasn't been a waste of money. Like I've been having a blast with this game, so that speaks a lot. And especially coming from me, who like I've been campaigning Returnal right for like the last few months. Like even I'm like still blown away by just how fun this game is. And like usually I don't really get that with roguelikes, but I still have that drive just based on the story, like Charlie said, and also just the fact that the game's just super fun to play. Like I could totally see myself beating this game and still wanting to go back just because it has the best DualSense implementation and like has such, satisfying combat. Like yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it so far. And yeah, Justin, you planning on picking up Returnal eventually on sale or something like that?
Eventually, yeah. I definitely do want to pick it up just because I know you guys have been talking about it for like basically the whole week, and you guys have been, definitely positive impressions, right? So, it was just a matter of, like the timing that it came out wasn't the best for me because, it came out like right at the end with my final exams, and then I was playing Resi 7 this week because I knew Resi 8 was coming this week, and I wanted to play that. So I imagine I'll definitely play it sometime this summer. I hope the price goes down a bit, but I'm definitely interested. I definitely do want to play it. It looks right up my alley, kind of. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I know Brandon said I might not enjoy it just because. What did you say? Like, there's lots. Like, there's a lot of time that passes where there's no story or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I feel like I could still enjoy it just based on.
I definitely think that you could still like it for sure.
So. Yeah, I definitely
Like,
do
yeah,
want to try it at some point.
for me, that was the biggest downside, was those large gaps. Like, it probably wasn't as bad for you, Brandon, because obviously
I've only
you've
played
had a
7
shorter
hours.
playtime. But like for me, I had like 10, 11 hours where there was no progression in the story, and I was just going room to room, shooting the same guys, and then go, oh, it's this guy again. Like I struggle with every time. It's like, and you walk past the house every
Dude, and
time. I'm like, I just want to go in the house.
You'll
And I
get
want to
hit
learn
once,
stuff.
and it will just screw up your last 2 hours. Because then,
Yeah.
it could take out half your health bar, and it's like, fuck, dude.
Yeah, there's a couple of enemies that just, the bats in like the first area are like so annoying because their attacks are just really difficult to dodge.
I don't know if you feel this too, Charlie, but I feel like the game almost, like, if you're like if you're having momentum in this game, it almost feels like the game's a lot easier. Like, I feel like if you're going into like a new area for the first time, like, you feel really powerful, but then you'll die and you'll come back and the game feels like 10 times harder, like you were saying. Like, when I first made it to like World 4 and 5, like, it was pretty easy. But now that I've, died and have to come back, like, I feel like it's definitely a lot harder if you lose that momentum in a way.
Yeah, I don't know if it's on purpose, but like sometimes you'll start runs and you'll
I'll start with
enter
a
the
pistol
first
and you'll
room.
be like in the first room with the game, like guys that take like 20 shots to kill. Or something
Yeah,
like that. It's
exactly.
crazy.
And I don't know if that's on purpose or if it is because it's kind of random with what rooms you get.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of times where I did start and there was like one of the, I would say, mini bosses that like shoot massive barrages of like bullets and like jump around at you and things, like, which has not been fun. I haven't had that in a while.
I've had my first room literally be the house before as well.
Yeah, I've had that, yeah. But it's like seeing the house is so annoying because if it's like all broken up and stuff, it means you can't interact with it. And it's like, I just want to go in there and do more of the story stuff because that is kind of like your main way into it. But yeah, it's really good. It's kind of hard to talk about it without like spoiling too much. Because there are so many things that they didn't really show.
I'll say the bosses are a lot like a lot like Fury if you played that before on PS4.
Yeah.
So
and like that's another thing, like the music is so good as well.
Yeah.
Like it's so atmospheric and it reminds me a lot of something like Alien. But like the fourth world in particular, Brandon, you'll probably know what I'm on about.
Yeah.
When you go up like the tower, like that scene is just so good. Yeah, and like the music's just so good in that entire section. As well, the game does tell you when you boot it up, but you basically need to play the game with headphones, and you're at such a disadvantage if you don't, because the game is very reliant on 3D audio.
Yeah, people have said this is like a podcast game, but I found the opposite. Like, I feel like when I'm playing this game, I want to be focused. Like, I can't be listening to someone talk and then like be trying to survive these rooms without my 3D audio. Like, no, that's not
even
happening.
a critically incorrect episode, man.
All right, maybe that's an exception. Okay.
Yeah, we need to listen to ourselves whilst playing it. That's the key. But like, yeah, because there was a few times I played it just with the audio coming out of, like, my soundbar, and like that has got some surround, but it's not 3D audio, and it's not the same. But I found like as soon as I used my headset, like I was instantly doing better because you just get a much broader sense of where enemies are, and hearing their attacks and stuff. I think they've done a great job with the sound design, just because it is so clear when enemies are going to attack you without even seeing them. And being able to dodge that stuff. So yeah, overall it's just such a good package. I think this is kind of solidified for me that the $70 price point can work, but it is going to take some time to convince people. Like I've even spoken to people in person, like when people come into like where I work and like they want to buy a PS5 game and they look at the price and like Demon Souls was like, I think we sell it for like £60, and they're like, this is like a second-hand game, why are you selling this for so much? And it's like, yeah, they increased all the prices, and people still don't really realize that because obviously they're still on like PS4 and things. So I think it'll be interesting to see how long this sticks around for. As long as people keep buying it, it's gonna stick. But for me, this kind of said, yeah, it will work if the quality is there. Especially even with a game like Returnal.
Yeah. Like we saw with Destruction All Stars, definitely that game wouldn't have been worth it for
$70. That would not have, convinced me to keep paying £70 for games.
But Returnal,
like I think
worth it.
Returnal's a good one, especially because it's pretty lengthy. Mm-hmm. Ratchet's going to be an interesting one because Ratchet looks amazing. but like how long's it gonna be?
It looks like
as
a
long as
full
it's
on
like a
experience
decent
to me.
length. But like, yeah, I imagine it's gonna be pretty full of content and stuff. But that's like the one so far where I'm like, that's a lot of money to spend on that game. But that was the same thing for me with Returnal. But it's kind of convinced me that it was worth it. So
Yeah. Anyways, we can talk about Returnal for ages. But best that we end it probably here. I'm sure we'll talk about it more if we, beat the game in the next week or so with Resident Evil Village for next week. So look forward to that. And yeah, with that being said, of course, I want to, once again remind you here at the end of the episode, if you have any feedback, comments, suggestions, anything like that, leave it either in the comment section down below or click the link in the description below to make our way to our Discord server. And yeah, with that being said, we'll see you next week for the 26th episode of Critically Incorrect. Take care.
See ya.
see you later.